Hey everyone, Jack Reeve here, TalkNorwichCity. I hope you're all doing very well. Back for another video today. Actually, probably one of my most requested videos in a while. Everyone's been saying, Jack, what's your thoughts on Stuart Webber? What's the thoughts on the Stuart Webber interview? And I have got thoughts, of course I have. So I'll discuss them in this video. And a big thanks to everyone who's been supporting the channel recently. Loads and loads of you enjoying the live streams, and thank you to everyone who's subscribed and whoever's new to the channel. And we've had a lot of new subscribers in the past few months. And a big thank you to everyone who's donated to our Ko-fi page as well. Our Ko-fi page is essentially a donation page in which you can help support the financials of this channel. Of course, this content isn't free to make. So a big thank you to everyone who supported. I'll link that in the description. If you fancy donating a couple of quid, that would be very much appreciated. And we'll drop you a link to a Facebook group that we've got going on. And it's a really lovely little community over there. So thank you very much. But yeah, of course, Stuart Webber. You want me here to talk about Stuart Webber. If you haven't seen, Stuart Webber came out in the week to talk to the press about this season, what's gone on. What he would have changed, and just his general thoughts and everything really. We haven't heard from Stuart for quite a little while. I've heard him on a few podcasts and sort of the national press, but since, you know, football has restarted, I haven't heard Stuart speak. And I was really interested to hear his thoughts on how this season's gone. Of course, we heard him on the TNC podcast at the very start of the season, so I knew his mindset going into the season. But it was like, with hindsight now and looking back, how has he thought things have gone? And I think my overall opinion on it, having watched it and having watched you know, a couple of different versions, and I've read Michael Bailey's article on The Athletic with his chat with him, I think I feel reassured. But I said on the live stream a couple of days ago, I think Stuart Webber's the type of bloke who could tell me I've just lost my job or deliver some really bad news to me and I'd still be quite reassured. He's just that kind of man, that he's such a good speaker. I see him as a really good leader. I think he's an excellent man to have at the helm of your football club, and it's always interesting to see what opposition fans think of people at Norwich City, because we can often be, you know, you're so emotionally driven, aren't you, with your football club. You can sometimes be swayed by that. But I think the general opinion of other fans who watched the interview as well was, yeah, I'd quite like to have him at my football club. So that's reassuring. I didn't agree with everything Stuart said, and it kept making me think. If I had the chance to do the Stuart Webber interview again that we did at the start of the season, I would have loved to have asked him a bit tougher questions on his comment around 38 free hits. If you haven't already seen that podcast, then probably a little bit out of date now, but we basically, you know, said to Stuart, what is your opinion going into this season? How are you viewing it? And he said it's essentially 38 free hits. No one expects us to stay up. To some extent, we don't expect us to stay up, so we're just going to go out there with freedom and see what happens. And I thought at the time, I was like, that's quite a defeatist attitude to be taking. I agree entirely that no one expected us to stay up, and when you look at budgets and wage bills, we are miles adrift of anyone. But I thought that's a really defeatist attitude to be taking into a football season, and I wish I'd, you know, asked tougher questions on that. But I just keep thinking, if I was a football player at Norwich City and I keep hearing, yeah, we're probably going to go down, I'd almost start to believe that myself. You are you know, you're very much a product of your environment, aren't you? And if you're consistently hearing from management, from your coaches that, yeah, lads, we haven't got a great chance here, which Farke's been saying for a lot of the season, which Webber has said from the very start of the season, I'd almost start to believe that. So that was a slight worry. I'm glad Webber took full responsibility of the recruitment, because it has been woeful, and I think that's probably a generous way to describe it. I've never seen such a big bulk of loan signings just not work out. And I mean, Roberts, Farman, Amadou, Duda, all haven't completed their loan spells, either because they haven't worked out for the club or the player, or someone has been better than them and, you know, to have 4 in that case is really quite alarming. And the permanent signings of Dermich and Byram's worked out. I think he'll be good in the Championship as long as he stays fit. And Dermich, I mean, they're hardly inspiring either. So Webber has to take responsibility for that, because, as he said, he sent Farke to war without a gun, and I think that was a fantastic analogy. It hasn't been good enough, and if we want any chance of promotion out of the Championship, then that's going to have to improve. On the flip side to that, I do feel slightly sympathetic to Stuart Webber, because you are essentially fishing in a puddle, aren't you? I mean, you know, the resources that we have, the finances that we have to attract players that will be good enough to keep Norwich City in the Premier League is basically non-existent. I mean, we have spent money on agents' fees and wages for these loan players, but you look at the types of, you know, teams that we've been up against in recent weeks that we deem as our closest kind of rivals in this division, you know, your West Hams, your Southamptons, your Villas of the world, they've still spent far and above more than we have. So I feel sympathy to Webber in a certain extent, but still, it doesn't make it good enough. The recruitment's been woeful. I think Farke having as much job security as he has is also a worry to me. I can't recall, and please do feel free to let me know in the comments, I can't recall a manager taking a football club on their worst losing streak. I don't think we've ever lost 8 straight league matches, which we have done this season, and it could be 10 by the end of the season if we don't beat Burnley or Man City, and pick up 21 points in a season and score 7 away goals all season. I mean, there's literally not a statistic that makes this season look good. It's been woeful. Have 100% job security. Webber said that Farke will be here if he wants to be here, and the only way he'll be gone is if he walks. And I can't see him walking, but I would have thought, and I know you're not going to come out in the press and say, yeah, look, Daniel hasn't been good enough, because we all know that there's a fantastic coach in Daniel Farke. He gave us one of the best seasons we've ever had as Norwich supporters. It was memorable, but that doesn't allow you to have such a poor season. I mean, simple things like, well, not simple things, but it's the consistent nature of these mistakes, defending crosses, defending set pieces, the inability to score goals, just things like that you would have thought may have improved over a season, simply haven't. And I don't know, I just thought there might be a bit of blame for Daniel, because it's all well and good Stuart going, yeah, it's all my fault. It isn't all his fault. It's the player's fault to a certain extent, it's Daniel's fault to a big extent, and Stuart takes responsibility. I'm not here to say it's X person's fault or it's X person's fault. I would have just thought that Daniel may have had some kind of criticism going his way from Stuart, but if that's the way they want to play it, that's fine. I just know that the fans can see through that. The other thing I wanted to pick up on, probably my final point of the video, was there's been a lot of people really reading into the image of Todd Cantwell sitting on the pitch after, was it I can't even remember, Everton game, I want to say. Possibly another game, I can't remember. We all know the image though. Todd Cantwell sat out on the pitch, clearly devastated that Norwich City have been relegated. Stuart said, please don't quote me on this, he said something along the lines of, you know, this isn't the time to be sat out on the pitch crying, which probably did infer Todd Cantwell, but I don't know what goes on at Colney day in, day out, but I'm fairly sure that, you know, Todd is very highly regarded up there. I don't think it was wrong of Stuart Webber to say what he did. I don't think it is the time to be moping about and you know, crying about it, and I don't think he was necessarily pointing the blame at Todd Cantwell. I just think it was a sweeping comment, and Stuart's a very straight talker, you know, he'll say things that maybe in hindsight he maybe would take back, but I wouldn't read into that too much. I don't think Todd will necessarily be at this football club next season, but as Stuart said, all sales will be on our terms. We can demand high prices for the lads. And look, if you're wanting someone to blame because of relegation, it's certainly not Todd Cantwell. He's been one of the standout performers of the whole season. So I think we're always looking for someone to blame at this point of the season. I've maybe been guilty of that but I don't think it's Todd. I don't think it's Todd. And Holty made a really good point on one of the live streams we did with him. What Todd did, like it or hate it, he did what he did. I think the only issue I had with it was there wasn't someone out there maybe having a word in his ear just saying, come on Todd, like, you might be feeling this way, but this isn't necessarily a good look. Just come in the dressing room and we'll sort it out. I think that's a point we've had all season. We've lacked leadership on the pitch and possibly off the pitch as well. And it's just turned into something probably bigger than it should be. But on the whole, felt reassured. Still not convinced we'll go up next season, as I don't think any Premier League team that gets relegated into the Championship should be. It's going to be very tough. I'm still needing to see far better recruitment going into next season. I'm needing to see better application on the pitch from the players that we have put out on there. I'm needing to see more tactical awareness from Daniel Farke. I'm needing to see the ability to defend set pieces and crosses. There's lots we need to work on, but on the flip side, there's also lots to be very optimistic about at Norwich City. Good ownership, core group of players that clearly do care about this football club, and a head coach that we know can do it in the Championship. So they're my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. It's certainly split opinion, as everything in football does when you're not going through a necessarily good time. But there we are. Thank you very much for watching. Please do hit subscribe, and if you have got a spare few quid, it'd be awesome if you could donate to our Ko-fi page. Links to that in the description as well. Take care, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye.